Welcome, Dr. Jason Dean, BraveTV, your source for health, freedom, and knowledge. How's it going out there, everybody? Derek is trying to get in. I think that we might have a camera audio problem. We're going to check on that. My man, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, my internet's not working great.
Well, we're not. We got something. We got a little bit. How are you doing? How you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing a lot better. I'm just trying to rest up while the Christmas holidays are here.
Definitely. Are you home or are you on the road?
I'm visiting family right now, but I'm so technically on the road.
Technically, okay, good. You get a little bit of break. Well, we'll do the best we can with the internet. No big deal. It's welcome to life and streaming. You know that after about 4 years, how that can work. So let me just dive in first because obviously it's news. So I'm hoping the whole thing shuts down by tomorrow morning or midnight or whatever it may be. What are your thoughts and feelings on this government shutdown coming up? Trump's recent tweet or truce were shut it down if you have to. Shut it down. Like the negotiations are essentially over at this point. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's just hard for me to answer without just once again. I mean, we've been in a military government continuity of operations, so none of this stuff matters. Um, it's all outlined in one of the most recent Department of Defense directives, how it all ties in. So I guess I'm more at this point disappointed that so many podcasters out there that claim to be different, but they're not. All they're doing is regurgitating what the mainstream media does in another kind of manner. So we're in a military government, a military occupation, have a language problem in this nation. We have a reading and comprehension problem in this
Yeah.
nation. So, all this stuff is a distraction piece. All of it. All that stuff's distraction, and it's working perfect because people are falling for it. What I call the Fox News Republicans. They're falling for it every day, and that's fine. Like the drones, they're falling for that. If they only knew that we were in a military government, military occupation, all of that is still part of the military working with law enforcement, as outlined in that most recent Department of Defense directive from September 27, 2024, 5240.01. Uh, in there it's got a letter K. It's got three little numbers there, three bullet points, number two and number three. It says Public Law 93-148. Well, that is the War Powers Act. All right, then the bullet point three says uh, approved by the president and directed by the Secretary of Defense. Well, President Trump did that in Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, December the 20th, 2019. The problem we have is a lot of people out there think because that was 5 years ago that that's old news and it don't matter and things like that. Well, the liberals wouldn't be freaking out over President Trump talking about an act from 1798 if 2019 was old news. We just have a little bit of hiccup with a lot of people out there still realizing what they're looking at, what they've been watching. So, anyway,
No, it makes
all
sense.
distraction.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. As this was unrolling the last couple of weeks, I was like, I got to get Derek back here because like you can see this is such a staged setup. I mean, we're actually, the Q drop says done in 30, and according to the calendar, midnight tonight to inauguration is pretty much exactly 30 days. So according to that, which I think is essentially military high-end coding, for lack of a better word, I was like, I gotta get Derek on here. This is exactly what he was talking about. The 45 through 47 is exactly what you were talking. So how do you feel? I know you're not an egotistical guy. I've met you. You're a good dude. How does it feel being like knowing you're pretty much dead on right about this and still, dude, no one's getting it. People are just not getting it out there.
Well, part of it is kind of like a shit-eating grin on your face, and then That's the southern part, and then the other portion is just it's just like anything else. My grandfather told me when I was younger, you'll find out. And he didn't mean anything in a bad way. He just meant that, I wasn't at his level in life yet. And it was something to do with, maybe, I don't know, maybe learning some kind of trade or tool or something like that. And he's like, well, one day you'll find out. It takes time. He never belittled me though. He never talked down to me, never degraded me. He just knew I wasn't where he was in life, and that's just like where we are with other things. It's like I told someone the other day. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not mechanically inclined, and if you brought your vehicle to me, and you didn't have anybody else, I guess I'd be your last strand. But you can't yell. You can't yell and cuss at me if I don't fix your vehicle, right? Take it to a mechanic. But if you took it to an actual mechanic, a registered mechanic, a licensed mechanic, a great mechanic by trade, and he fixes your vehicle and you're still yelling at him after he fixed your vehicle just because you didn't like the cost or something like that, well, that's kind of what people do when they tell me that I'm hogwash and it's conspiracy and all these other things. I'm like, you just don't know what you're looking at and you don't know the terminology, but you'll find out. And that's what President Trump basically. I mean, but the most logical answer to it all, though, is the fact that when you're good at what you do and you're called for it, then you just do that. It's kind of like Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth didn't have to walk in the room and say, "I'm the home run king." When Tom Brady walks in the room, he don't have to flash 7 rings. He just walks in the room. When President Trump walks in the room, he just walks in the room. So whenever you're a champion or whenever you're called to do what you're supposed to do, all you got to do is show up.
Totally, totally. Now you have done a lot of interviews, obviously, the last 2 to 4 years. I saw you with obviously people like Roseanne, some big names too, that brought you in. So, question behind the scenes: um, do they get what you were talking about? Did they understand it? Are they in agreement, or do you think that they're still it's a little unreal to them what's actually happening, even though we don't know all the details of how this was actually done?
No, a lot of them understand it, but someone like Roseanne, who's freaking awesome and cool and whatnot, unique. She's been doing what she's been doing for so many years, though, and she has that already. Her what I call target audience, or
Yeah.
anything else like a target market, that's already been defined for her. Now, anything new will be bonus, right? But she's had an audience for years, and then she has pulled in a lot of new audience because she says what she says and loves what she says. But they do get it absolutely. She does, especially. She texts me all the time. She gets it. But the other thing is, some of them, do they want to get it per se? Will it really affect them, depending on where they are, their age, their life? Um, but the bigger ones do get it. But at the same time, they do have their target audience. So if they started deviating right now, it'd be weird and awkward in another manner. Even though I'm still a proponent of, it doesn't matter, you still show the people. If you know it, you show the people. So I put that out there for everybody. When I say podcasters, I'm just, you know, I, I will always look at it. And if you don't give somebody the opportunity, how would they ever know?
Right.
And then when you do know, you can't unknow, you can't unsee, you can't unread once you know that. And to me, I guess it sounds, I guess, like I'm bragging on myself, but then again, I'm bragging on my mom and my dad and my grandparents, and then also that the great grandparents that taught them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would feel like I'm lying to people if I knew something and I knew how to break it down and I knew that what everybody's watching, which is what I do. I feel like I'm lying to people if I just beat around the bush. Why do that when you can absolutely point it out and show people? Whether they believe it or not is not my problem, but it is my problem, or maybe not a problem. That might not be the right terminology, but I would be doing people a disservice for knowing what I know and my brain to be able to do what it does. to not show people that.
No,
So
totally. Um, so we're closing out the last 2 weeks in the year. President Trump continues to talk about a brand new American celebration from May of 2025 till July 2026, which is a year long. That gives us 4-ish to 5 months on the calendar left for whatever things are going down or going down. How do you see this next 4 to 5 months playing out?
well, I mean, I don't know. It's like I tend to think that January 6th they may do something like a reversal in another manner, meaning like a show the left do what they did way back. Like the same thing, like a replay. Uh, because right now, what I see the most out there, whether it matters or not, I mean, Elon says the same thing. Well, if it doesn't gain traction, then does it matter? But a lot of people on X are not like known people or notable people. But they got their little blue check, which you can pay for now. But
Yep.
still, they got thousands of followers. I mean, we're talking about like 200, 300, 400, 500,000 followers, and they get a lot of attention. And most of those that I see are liberals, which I troll a lot of pages on X anyway. So I get what I get. Obviously, my news feed looks obviously what I'm responding to, but I would gain a lot of followers because I go over there and I lay the facts down on these big pages. And I've got little copy and paste that I do all the time. And it's the same rhetoric. And their rhetoric right now is the utmost hypocrisy on the highest level of the
Yep.
laws of the land. Because January the 6th, 2021, the liberals, will yell that was an insurrection and all these other things. And I'm like, you guys want to call President Trump a felon over a civil matter, all right? But you could actually invoke the 25th Amendment on him. He's met now, since you and I have spoken, he's now met with 10 leaders, 11 all you needed was one of them to invoke the 25th and the Logan Act on him. You didn't need all 10, right? So you could actually call President Trump a felon if they would invoke the 25th Amendment, the Logan Act, all right, and Executive Order 13848 on him,
Right.
his own federal law, right? And they wouldn't even need J6 or 14th Amendment to get rid of President Trump because they could do it lawfully through a federal court and also invoke the 25th to keep him from ever running, which he probably, in a normal setting, if that was a normal thing, he wouldn't do in his 80s anyway. However, that shows the hypocrisy out there, period. That is straight up laws and orders. And we all witnessed that. If President Trump was a former president, the whole world's seeing him meet with him. It's not like that he could say, oh, no, I didn't meet with these people. No,
Right.
he most certainly did in his private establishment of Mar-a-Lago, right, which is the actual terminology of the Logan Act, private correspondence with a foreign leader, right? So we've witnessed that. All right, so that I think with what they're doing and what they did with J6 4 years ago, soon to be four, then what if they flipped that and reversed that on them and made some kind of something happen that day? Now, that someone could take that the wrong way. I'm not, the people who really thought that was violence could say, oh, you're promoting violence. No, it wasn't real violence. First off, they've already told everybody there were informants there by the FBI, which I already knew this was a rig. It was a setup. Because when the two objections took place in the state of Arizona, no one in American history had ever seen that before.
Right.
And then we have evidence of what to do with that. We have a piece of paper with our Constitution that says when two objections take place, what is to take place after that. That didn't happen. So the whole world actually witnessed Congress break federal law with seditious acts to overthrow the government and also treason, which are 18 U.S. Code. That is your federal and criminal procedure booklet, ladies and gentlemen. That is your federal crimes codification for federal law. So everybody actually witnessed the polar opposite. All right. So how do you throw that back on them? Because this is all a trap and an operation anyway, I just think that there's got to be something that triggers to be able to bring that law into effect, into play, to be able to flip that around and show the American people in a court setting, maybe, or maybe an actual objection takes place in this one somehow, and people see what the actual process is supposed to look like. And then once that happens, let's say there was an objection in Michigan or Pennsylvania, whatever. Well, then every state then could go, well, we have a discrepancy here. We have a, and then people, President Trump wouldn't even have to go back 4 years ago because people would know then that if there was a discrepancy in this one, then we already knew what happened 4 years ago. So that's why he says we ain't got to live in the past. So there, that to bring in why they activated the National Guard all the last 4 elections. And then here's the evidence of that. And I think that's how you bring that to people. It's still got to be military because that'll be all nationalities, all ethnicities, all backgrounds, religions, etc. No one on the left or anybody for that matter could point a finger and say, oh, racism or thisism or that
Right.
is. No one could do that, right? So I think that something like that could. Now, we may get there and it just scathed right on through and right on in. But all these congressional reports with Biden and the Biden crime family. I'm trying to share a video. My internet stinks, like I said, so I was trying to share a video that President Trump in Pennsylvania back in August. He did a 4.5 minute speech, and he said, "My advisors told me not to, but I'm going to," which is always epic when he says that because that means he's got some heat. And he talked about how the Biden crime family made $27 million in one lump, $8 million in another, loans that were unpaid, and how Hunter was all linked into that. So all this stuff that people are seeing right now is a preface for something. It's getting ready. The tide's about to turn, and all hell is going to break loose on the enemy.
I agree, dude. I don't want to like press you for like dates and times. I'm just curious your thoughts. Tribunals this year or next year? Do you think there'll be
I don't
tribunals?
know. I think that, well, yeah, there's got to be and President Trump, he does not renege on his word. He is not that at all. And I loved how even though this has all been planned, but for the people that don't know that, for the especially the liberals that don't know that, whenever they thought I saw it all over X, they're like, oh, he'll tone down once he wins, and the very next day when the mainstream media asked President Trump about deportations, he said, "Yes, I will invoke, and He said, I will sign an executive order and declare a national emergency, and I will use the military and law enforcement to deport on day one." Well, that right there tells you that no, President Trump's not going to back down on that. Now, I think his tone personally, from a first person standpoint, will change from that angle because it cannot look like it's all driven by him to prosecute these people. So I think the tone changes with that, and he has changed his tone a little bit with that. Where one of his speeches was talking about what would I look like if I prosecuted the president's wife, right? Beautiful
Right.
Hillary. Well, he changed his tone with that in a different manner, but that's all part of the plan, in my opinion, to go, okay, it cannot look like him because the more this starts being unveiled, that this has been an occupation, military, etc., continuity of operations, the more that's unveiled to keep, once again, that civil peace and that uprising from happening from the people who would uprise, the more he retracts and it looks like he has kind of, simmered on that, but let Congress and also let the courts do what they need to do, the Supreme Court as well, then that'll take the heat off of him. But I do believe, yes, somewhere down the road there will be those. And then also that's why the expansion took place at Guantanamo Bay.
Right.
It's also why the Army Navy game the whole time, as if we don't have troops anywhere else in the world. They focus the whole game on Guantanamo Bay. There's a lot of lighting in that, but will it be this year or next year? I do think it has to be when more people are willing to be accepting of that. So, are we there yet? Will it happen this year? I don't know. I think that's probably what the May to July next year may be a part of is where he says all these people will come
Right.
from around the world. We'll have competitions. I think that's where you build that unity. You get people involved, and then whatever those will consist of. I don't know if there will be educational tools at those and whatnot, or will there be speeches, or what that will look like. It seems like that's probably got something to do with that to bring in people to make them accepting of what they're about to witness, because you got to witness it. I mean, the only way we're going to learn from history and prevent it from happening is to see some things we don't want to see.
Totally. No, 100%. It's been so bad in America for so long, and people don't know, and even all of us, many didn't know for a very long time until we woke up, which was a little bit more ago. But there's so many people that have no idea, and I would say 90% of the country, even patriotic people, don't really know what's been happening, and so that is a big blunt punch in the face when they actually find that out. I know you talked a lot about different nations. I think at one point you talked about Australia a little bit from a while ago. Now we have Trump talking about Canada. They're a mess. He's talking about a 51st state. But then BRICS pops up. I think he already made the deal with BRICS back in like 2017 myself. But what are your thoughts on what's happening with BRICS? Have we already made a deal, and is it just a kind of just a deal? Do we enter BRICS, or we just kind of have a deal with them where the new financial system goes in behind the scenes? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think we save the U.S. dollar and we save the Federal Reserve, as President Trump says. I mean, I think that the drive has been right now, well, the last 6 years, especially heavily, 5 or 6, you could easily argue, has been heavily on getting everybody in a sovereign position first, resetting everything.
Right.
And I just saw this just because it just happened. I'd have to go back and look at the date as well. They made Biden terminate a national emergency with Zimbabwe, which is awesome
Oh, did they?
because Zimbabwe, is been one of the key countries that have tried to reset in history, and they always faltered or failed. But now their ZIG, which is Zimbabwe gold, is holding up. Now, a recent report will say they've lost half of their gold reserves, some nature like that. But that's mainstream still. Once again, I believe trying to bring attention to it more than it is being real, because we have seen the BRICS everywhere, the crypto, all the different things. But I think the most important drive right up first was to get everybody sovereign nations. Also, all the trade talk and things of that nature. Same thing with Canada. And then I like to weave a little bit, like President Trump says. I like to weave the conversation. But while we're here, you might as well weave a little bit. But like with Canada, like when they made Biden the other day say that he hopes that President Trump will think differently on his tariffs with Mexico and Canada. I'm like, do people not hear what he just said? If they think he's real, all right, then on the debate, he's sitting there talking about how the tariffs were a disaster for the economy. And President Trump looks and says, well, why didn't you remove them, Joe? All right, why didn't you remove them? It don't require legislation. They require a simple phone call to the other foreign leader and say, all right, guess what? You can screw us over again. The tariffs are off. Right? Yeah, you have your way with us like you've always had. Right? So think about that. And now people would say, well, Justin Trudeau's talking about the tariffs are bad for the economy up there in Canada. That's bringing attention to everything. See, they're bringing attention to people. So weaving back and forth here, but if people would really truly go to the Special Operations Command booklet, it's called the Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide 2016, and study that and read that, and then what it doesn't really expand on. If you don't know much about clandestine operations or irregular warfare, go look those up. Get into the mindset of that, and then you'll understand what distractions are and what brings attention to people. Because attention, it don't matter if someone's cussing you out, depending on what they're doing, right? If you got their attention, it may be a good thing. And if you're willing or able to handle it like someone like me and go, you can cuss all you want, but it's still this. Sorry. Then if they're willing and able, then they can meet you there if there's someone who wants to work, as President Trump calls the workers. But like he said, there's just some dumb and stupid people out there, and only they will sift themselves out most of the time. But, you know, weaving back, will we be a part of BRICS? I don't know. I think that what President Trump's ultimate goal, and not just him, but the generals, et cetera, the people who know how the world functions, was still for every nation to think on their own and do what every nation thinks they need to do, and regional as well. Some nations over there, it don't make sense for certain imports or exports to be coming from certain locations in
Right.
certain places. So I think that it'll depend on that, and what's needed and what's necessary. But I don't know. It's a great question. I've got a buddy that's a expert. I'm always asking him stuff because he is a financial guru when it comes to that. But I've actually got him writing a book right now. I told him, I said, you write the book and I'll forward it. But he is an expert on it, and he was sending me a picture the other day of a qubit, which he was talking about is it's the bridge between the conventional and the quantum systems, and it's soaring right now. So I don't know. We may not even need BRICS. I don't know. It depends, I guess.
Yeah, no, different level, different level. There's obviously been lots of intrigue and discussion on, are these the real people or is not the real people? I'm just curious on what I've seen some of your posts and stuff, but I haven't been able to watch everything you're doing. I have never believed Biden is Biden. This Congress, I don't know if they're following deals, if they're really just being idiots, if they've already been taken care of. My mind goes back and forth. Washington, D.C., some people say it's busy. Some people say it's completely shut down. They've had friends there. They're like, there's like boarded up buildings there. What is happening? According to you, what you know based on your laws, rules, and what you've seen.
Well, I mean, I've been to D.C. It was a ghost town. Now I'm not there every day, but I know some people that are, and it's a ghost town. Certain buildings have been boarded up, certain buildings have been shut down, certain buildings have been closed. The Senate building doesn't have names on the doors. I mean, there's things that are not normal. Now, this is where I was talking to a friend the other. A continuity of operations
Yep.
versus a regular government, it's going to be hairline difference to the average person. All right. So it's kind of like special operators. What a special operator can do is, okay, yeah, you can outright tell a liar sometimes if they're an outright liar. All right. But the ones that blend in, the ones that are all about being your best friend and they're lovey dovey and they're patting you on the back and they're saying, hey, man, da 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 da. But then the ones that go behind your back and they're doing something, finding that one little hiccup, finding that one little discrepancy requires the special. Same thing with the continuity of operations. It's going to look a lot alike because it has 8 national essential functions. And the first essential function of a continuity of operations, it says, is to maintain a constitutional government. So, I mean, it's telling you to maintain a constitutional government, but you're still in the continuity of operations. I mean, that is razor thin hairline for the average person. They're not going to get it. They're not going to see it because you're not in that operation. The other thing is just like an ant bed. All the ants are working together, all right? And then we get to see the ant bed built, right? We see the finished product. They see it too, but they don't realize what they're doing at the same time. Like when they get in one little grain of sand and one little grain of sand and then boom, right? So it's the same thing like I tell people, the military. Anybody who's active duty right now, reserve component or National Guard, they don't realize what they're doing all in every little capacity. Some can, depending on how high speed they are, as we call it, but there ain't many high speeds in the military. All right, on the low levels, the ones doing the work.
Yeah.
All right, the generals, the colonels, they know the plan because they're at the 40,000 foot view. and they're the ones getting all those components to do that, to build that visual. But the ones down there doing that can't see that. So like when family members talk to other family members in the military, well, this guy over here says we're in a military government, but oh, that's a bunch of hogwash. That that average soldier, one soldier makes up all these millions of soldiers. All right, they can't know that like that, and then also, do they know the laws and orders of which they're serving under alone and
Right.
the regulations? So the time you do all that, it's like that's so a continuity of operations. It does sound far fetched out the gate to think of, puppets and actors and actresses. Is it all of them? No. All right, but a lot of them are. Then the rest of them are under NDAs because they know what's at stake. And then when they
Right.
say, well, what about their friends and their family? Yeah, their friends and their family, if depending on who it is, if they're under the NDA or not, or an actress or not, they also know what's at stake as well. All right, and there's punishments for that. Okay, if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. If someone gets hurt, that's the worst, right? So if someone gets hurt with this, then guess what happens to you or your family member? It depends on who it is, right? So there's levels of punishment, but it's not far fetched. This happened in World War II. It happened slightly different, but it did happen in World War II. It is not something that's foreign to the military. There were two presidents used with the Philippines. The one came and stayed in D.C. under Roosevelt. Roosevelt had full control of the Filipino military. Japan installed a president in the Philippines at the same time, and that person had full control of only civil affairs. Well, that's kind of funny because Joe, if you pay attention, like I tell soldiers, around Joe, quote unquote, actor Joe, there's only been three different insignia: JAG, military intelligence, and civil affairs and psychological operations. Those two go together.
Okay.
All right. So, and that's really, that's the optical part of it to go, okay. So every time I'm looking at TV, which they don't show him anymore, he ain't been anywhere, and Kamal ain't, Air Force One ain't done nothing. I mean, it's just, where they been? Where'd they go? So how come Joe, who was by all accounts a great high school football player, all right, before he became a crook in Congress for all those years, he was a great high school player. Why wouldn't you go to a game that you love when you're a quote unquote president, right? For the people out there that think he is, why has he never been to the Army Navy game? Oh, because he can't hand off the Commander in Chief trophy because he's not the Commander in Chief. So there's that, right? So there's little things that just show people, if they'll apply the stuff, then bring in, your feelings of that's far fetched. But once you do everything that's protocol and also logical, but also if you're a person of integrity, then you have to say, okay, if Joe's president, then he should deserve what every other president received, no matter what my beliefs are and how much I despise him. So how come he has not received anything presidential? How come he can't fly in Air Force One with a presidential call sign? How come he has not made one military order whatsoever? The orders have already been invoked. They're already there. And that just comes with knowing how military laws and orders work. But nothing he's done has been even federal from a bigger level, right? All the bigger federal things have been taken care of, like the Defense Production Act had been extended all the way to 2025. I mean, so there's all these things
this is why executive orders can't be taken away. He doesn't have that power.
That too. So, but then when one has terminated, it's because they wanted it to terminate. It's because that's part of the continuity. So it's teaching people what is a continuity. Things like the National Defense Authorization Act. Well, Joe Biden had to sign that. I've heard people say, no, that's the defense budget. That is a continuity of operations. That is an essential function, is to maintain the military, the defense of our nation. So there's things that would have required a presidential signature no matter what. So just because his name's on a piece of paper doesn't mean he's real. So it's teaching people those little intricacies of that. And so once people, like I tell people, get a column of all the things that are presidential, that are absolutely presidential and the president can do only, or should receive only, and stack that column. Joe ain't got anything in that column. All right. Congressional and presidential, Joe has stuff in there, but it's because it's tied to Congress, right? So there's things that all have a column. Then when you take that congressional presidential column and go, okay, what will be a continuity of operations? That column's full. All right. The congressional column is not full of anything congressional based off of regular Congress. So see, once you take those columns and you put everything in there, it don't hurt people to do that. Like I tell people, don't hurt you to do that because that's how you're going to learn. All right, how these things operate and function. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I know it sounds far fetched and all the other things, and that's fine at first. But once again, when you start going to military, then you start going to like January the 20th, 2021, when you start looking at military uniforms, that's sacred. So the sacredness to us in the military means life and death. And we've had buddies and family members die in the military. So that's where it becomes sacred and real. All right. So that's where I tell people, all right, I can tell you by the sacredness and realness that everything you've been watching has not been real. All right. And it would be a ultimately it'd be a disgrace if, let's say it was, then it would all be a disgrace on the military uniform and the service of our family members and friends who have passed before. So that's where the realness comes in.
Makes sense, man. You're a lot of information over 4 years, dude. Are you still studying it every day, or you just have it like locked in?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I got it locked in, but I got to study all the new stuff. I mean, they still do it on a timely basis. I mean, like all these Department of Defense that come out recently, like the June 4th one. There's another one, the June 4th, 2024, the 50. Let's see, no, it's 3020.26 Department of Defense instruction. That one right there, ladies and gentlemen, shows you that an order 4 years old is not old at all. It says that the most current order of succession being used is from December the 10th, 2020, which is Donald John Trump. All right. Every president has had an order of succession. There's another thing, a presidential thing. Every president has had an order of succession since 1947, since they made that a thing, made that an act. All right. An order of succession within the federal department or Defense Department. How come Joe doesn't have a single federal order of succession or defense order of succession in place? The most recent that the DOD says is from December the 10th, 2020. The other thing is the presidential transition. All right, every president since Clinton has an executive order of presidential transitions, facilitating the presidential transition. Where's President Trump's? And where's Joe Biden's? They're not there. All right. Why doesn't President Trump have a White House military office archive? All right. Obama's is the first archive that pops up for a White House military office. And right now, the only thing you can look up currently is Wikipedia page of White House military office. There has not been a White House military office director since January 2022. All right. So the White House military office, ladies and gentlemen, is your Air Force One transportation, it's your Marine One transportation, the food for the president, and everything else around the president, stuff like that. All right. How come Joe doesn't have a White House military office, and how come President Trump doesn't have a White House military office archive? So that shows you we've been in a military government, military occupation, continuity of operations, and continuity of government. It's just, I mean, you can, like I said, what kind of pie you want? I got pie. I got all kinds of pie.
Oh God, I love it. I love it. I want to show your social media. Your X account. So, it's funny. The algorithm is totally screwing me over because I haven't seen your account in forever, and I've been following you for a long time. You're up to you're getting close to 250,000 followers over there. Look at that.
Yeah, it's probably because I troll so much, but
You
you know,
Hey, it's fun. It's fun trolling. Um, Good stuff over here, dude. When you put, I saw that. Actually, this is what triggered me yesterday or today because I saw this morning actually, and I'm like, it really is kind of obvious if you look at it. And we always gotten back to that time when Biden was at the press conference and the audio kind of came in over that, which was him saying something about an like a plea bargain or something like that. We're like, wait a second, this is being set up. This is all like he already turned a long time ago. It's really fascinating.
yeah. I mean, you know, I look. I mean, all politics aside, and all evil aside, all that. You know, Hunter was a gruff looking dude. He had like you got that beard going over there yourself. I can't grow a beard like that. I look like a scraggle dog. Like you know, so I look like them schnauzers when they get wet. You know, I'm like I look better. You know, with shaved, right? And Hunter out, like I said, all politics aside, all evil aside, all that aside. I mean, Hunter was a nice looking dude. I mean, he's a gruff looking guy. He was a manly looking guy. He wasn't like, and that guy that they're showing now as quote unquote Hunter, and all these liberals are all they're all over X. Oh, he's our hero. And I met Hunter today at the White House. And I'm like, man, they are playing these people for fools for sure. But I'm like, the dude looks like a, and I know that cocaine I've seen the effects of it on people, what it can do, make you look old and feeble and things of that nature, but not like that. You know, you can look at him and just go, all right, something's not right. Like Fetterman. Fetterman
Oh my God.
was a great one. I mean, you know, the other thing is like there are rules to how you dress. It's like a country club. You know, you
Right.
can't wear a t-shirt, things of that nature. Liberty University, you can't wear a t-shirt to class. You got to wear a collar to class. There's rules and things. I mean, this dude is showing up in a dang hoodie and freaking shorts and Nike shoes. I mean, and he's standing there with like the guys in the suit and tie, and you're just like, this is they can't make this any more obvious than what they're doing. Uh, and I know it's I feel that feeling sometimes of like I do feel bad for people that can't because I don't want them to think I'm just absolutely think you're dumb, stupid, or making fun of you. But at some point, you got to click somehow and go, okay, look, I mean, you know, if everybody decided to wear hoodies and say the heck with suits and ties now, okay, maybe. But that right there is like the outlier of all of them to go, okay, something's not right. It's the same thing with Kamala. I mean, people say, oh, you Photoshop. I'm like, first off, you'd have to know me to know I suck at anything technology, right? But I mean, she's sitting there on live TV and her neck looks like a chameleon. Like it looks like it's like one of those lizards that's like got its mating call out.
Maybe it
Going,
is. Maybe it is a lizard.
you know, yeah, it may be. So but you're like you're wait. I'm sitting there like going, all right, just make it go like just flare up, right? Just like the ultimate, like yeah, like. But what is it going to get the people to see this stuff? And then you'll have people out there go, oh, people can look different at different times. I'm like, not like that. I mean, we're talking about like Men in Black type material, right? We're talking about the stuff that we saw in Men in Black that you had to zap your memory from seeing. Uh, so I don't know.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, as always, I appreciate you, and it's interesting. I'll tell you again. The first time I ever saw your stuff when it went viral, I was like, "Holy crap, that sounds really compelling." And then I was like, "No, there's no way. This is no way. He's grifting. He's grifting." And then I told you, like, "Dude, I totally thought you were a grifter." Then I was like, "No, no one's disproving anything he's saying." Like, and then over a period of years, I think we met one time at Doral, and I'm like, he's not like, this is the thing. You're not saying your opinion. You're just quoting documents. So I'm like, everyone who asks me, like, I'll send this out there. I'll send some clips out to people, and they'll be like, no, that he doesn't know. He's quoting documents. He's not predicting stuff himself. He's quoting documents. So until you can disprove his documents, then you got to just kind of take what he says and observe, I guess.
Well, the thing is everything always, no matter where you go, it always is going to link back to the same, or not the same law necessarily like a law, but it links together, just like those directives. Some of them don't have anything to do with each other, but then you see those two bullet points in there, and it says Public Law 93-148. Well, when you go look that up, you're like, that's the War Powers Act. Well, then you'll hear people say, well, president is limited to posse comitatus. I'm like, no, it's not. It says in the actual defense. So if you go to a joint publication, 3-57, civil and military operations, it tells you that the president can use, and it says unless Congress or the Constitution deems otherwise. All right, well, Congress would be Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. That would be congressional and presidential, but Congress had to put that there. Well, then President made the orders after that, the executive orders that invoked the Title 10, and that's what that defense civil operations tells you. Defense support of civil authorities, and it tells you that. He goes, well, yes, he can with Title 10. Normally, generally not. It says prohibited. We'll use the correct terminology. It says normally prohibited, but unless Congress or the Constitution deems so, then he can use Title 10, military with law enforcement and civil authorities and domestic situations. All right, so that's why people don't fully read. Now, if you went over to Wikipedia and you read the posse comitatus, it don't tell you that, right? It don't list that out. So you trust Wikipedia, or you trust a .mil, which is the official Defense Department, right? That tells you, yes, we most certainly can, unless this. So everything always, as President Trump says, the weave, right? It always weaves itself back, and you can't argue with it. So what I end up doing, all of mine, I'll use certain segments with this segment and a segment with this, but they're all law and they all tie in each other and they all weave themselves together. And you just can't. The only people argue with it, the people who ain't reading. It's just all it all boils down to, or comprehending. And it's a lot to comprehend. I do realize that, but if people want to know, it's there.
It is there. Everybody head over to his X page, his Instagram, his Facebook, and check out all of his stuff. And I will have you back. We'll do this again the beginning of the year sometime, because obviously it might be heating up then. But dude, I, as always, appreciate everything you do, and wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thankful for all that you've been doing so far.
Well, likewise, and to your audience as well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Enjoy the holidays, enjoy the festivities, and give your liberal family friends hell.
With that, everybody, Derek Johnson, I'm Dr. Jason Dean. Do your best this holiday season. Love, serve, and help. And